Welcome to another episode of This My Baby Podcast. It's your boy AJ, and today we have a topic that I'm unfamiliar with, but it's something that I would really strive to do and strive to happen for myself, with my children. So as I've gotten older, I've started to realize that it sounds funny, but a lot of people do have their dads in their lives, and they're their friends, like not just their friends, they're their best friends, and to that point, I have my guy, Andre Bentley, on the podcast today to talk about his relationship with his father. Bentley, I appreciate you being here.
No problem at all, man. I appreciate you having me. It's been a long time coming. I should have been on here, but yeah, appreciate the invite, brother.
But you were nervous.
I mean, I just wanted to make sure I had, a topic that provides some value to you.
Well, this one, you were the first person that came to mind because, for truest transparency, your wedding is one of the first things I thought about when I thought about this topic. And I remember when you were naming your groomsmen and things like that, and you said your dad, and I was like, to me, it's like, this is why is he going to be there? Like, it's supposed to be you and your boys and everything. And then, knowing you throughout the years, I know exactly how close you are. So just tell the people, how did that happen? Like, how do you really feel like you built a relationship with your father?
Yeah. I think the relationship that my father and I have has grown throughout time. We've gone through stages in our relationship as I grew up. Of course, as a kid, he was a disciplinary figure. I didn't really see him as a friend when I was a kid. My dad, he's a retired police, so if I get in trouble, it wasn't just a normal getting in trouble. It was police getting in trouble. If you, so we went through different stages. But to answer your question, as far as the whole groomsman best man situation, at the time when I got married, my dad was the first one that I told I was ready to marry my wife. And I had a whole lot of people to choose from as far as a best man. And I went through a few different scenarios where I have two brothers, Damon and Carlton. They are, folks that I look up to, and they're probably the reason why I'm in Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated. And, they mean a lot to me.
And me. Yeah. Don't
Exactly. So, but they mean a lot to me. They're role models in my life, and it was tough for me to choose between them both. I have some real good friends that I've been friends with ever since high school, and they were in the wedding, but it was tough for me to choose between them, and as well as my line brothers. There were a lot of people on the list who could have been my best man, but as I thought about what's the best decision to make where I wouldn't offend anybody or make anybody mad, my dad came to mind. When I thought about who was the person that knows me best, the good, the bad, the ugly, my dad came to mind. And when I thought about just marriage and who would be a person that would hold me accountable and has seen the good and the bad with marriage throughout life, my dad came to mind. So that's how the whole thing with my dad being my best man came about. But there was a lot that led up to that, with me building trust in him and, being able to have certain conversations throughout me growing up that, really developed that friendship as well.
So let's go through those different stages, because I hear a lot about, your boy's going to challenge you, right? You hear that. So did you ever have that stage, or was it always just, just been my guy? Because for me and my son right now, like that's my guy. But I feel like I know at some point, it's going to come to a head. I feel it.
Yeah, and I think that, starting off, like as I mentioned earlier, my dad was more of a disciplinary figure in my life. He was, my mom was the person I would go to when I was sad and everything. My dad, he'd be like, get it done, and he still had a way of showing love and, friendship, as I was a kid, more of the way he provided for me, to where, I understood him to be my father. That's my dad. But I think as I started to grow up, getting into high school, starting to play sports, him pushing me and things of that nature, that really started to develop more of the, I would say, mentor-mentee relationship, if you will, because I was starting to learn from him. It wasn't just a disciplinary thing. It was more of me learning from him, him coaching me through different life experiences. I remember my JV year playing football. And, I went through the whole summer workouts and everything, and, knew the whole time I was ineligible to play on the team. But my dad, I didn't tell him, he thought I was good. and it came time for us to get uniforms and everything. And, I didn't have the grades to be able to. And that was one of the first times where my dad, he kind of loosened the reins of discipline and kind of started to let me understand and learn on my own. And that's when I started to see our relationship move from him being that disciplinary figure in my life to more of that mentor-mentee, where he was starting to teach me, hey, there's a cause and effect for everything. You know what I mean? And I'm not going to always be the one to yell at you, to spank you or tell you, you need to do this. Now you're at a stage where you're going to learn this on your own with me coaching you in the background. Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, it does.
Yeah.
So with that being the case, though, how were you, because a lot of times the disciplinary fact, you can't get over that, right? How were you able to just be able to take that and see, well, I understand it now, or will you understand it then? Like, when did that flip?
That's a good question. I think it was when I got into college, because I was finally in a place where I wasn't with my dad every day. And that was tough for me. I'll be totally honest, being away from home, 4 hours away from DC, and just looking at, how do I operate without my parents in my ear, mainly my dad in my ear all the time, telling me I need to do this. I think that experience really helped me to go into more of that friendship stage, because I went down to Fayetteville, started my freshman year, and I really, my freshman year, I didn't do any work. I was, out, I was out in the club. I was playing ping pong or pool every weekend, and I got that first semester grades, and they were terrible. And my dad didn't do anything as far as discipline. He didn't say, I'm pulling you out of school. He told me I got two choices. He said, you can either fix your grades or you can go see Ben Lott. Those are the exact words that came out of his mouth. And I knew what to do then. I was going to fix these grades. I wasn't going into the Army at that time. And, that's when I was like, okay, like, he's not going to continue to discipline me. He's going to be in a space where he's going to give me choices. He's going to let me make my own decisions. And I got to start to live with them. And then that's around the same time where we started to really develop the friendship around football. I've always been a Cowboy fan all my life, but I've never really got into the games like he was until I got to college. He drove down one weekend when the Cowboys were playing the Redskins, and he just hung out with me. We sat down, we watched a Monday night football game. He asked me about school, and we kind of talked. It was very unusual to me to have that type of experience with my dad, because we hadn't really sat down and kicked it as boys. We were dad, father, and son. We weren't, friends at the moment, but that was something he kept going yearly. So now every year, to this day, we go to a Cowboy football game, no matter where. It's a total waste of money right now. And I know you probably laugh at that, but you do it more for the experience. There have been trips that we've gone on to where, he shared some personal stuff with me. I'll share some personal stuff with him, and it stayed with us. You know what I mean? And that's when, you start to see, okay, now this is my dog. This is my friend. He's still my father. I'm still learning from him, but now I'm at a position where we're talking man to man. You know what I mean? So I think in college, it really started to where I learned the whole friendship aspect, where I really started to see a change and appreciate him more and more than, even when he was that disciplinary, because I started to understand money. And one of the things that, I tell my dad all the time, I appreciate it. My dad paid my whole college out of pocket. I had no student loan debt. I didn't have to collect any refund checks to pay back. And he did all that by working part-time, working overnight just to pay my college tuition. And it hit me, like, when I found out I was graduating and I saw people talking about, yeah, I'm graduating, but I got this student loan debt, and nothing wrong with, financial or anything. Me, I don't even know what a student loan is, coming out of college. And I'm just like, man, like, this dude, and I started looking at totaling up semester money and how much each semester costs. And it was like, yo, he really put it all on the line for me. You know what I mean? So not only did he train me up to be who I am today, but he also sacrificed and provided for me in a way that a real friend, or not a fake friend wouldn't do. You know what I mean? And that's when I really started to appreciate him even more as well.
So, and then you had children of your own. Yeah. And so now you understand, like, what he, and you don't have as many as he had.
No. And a lot of why I think it's great to share that story as well. I come from a huge family, 2 brothers, 3 sisters, but you would never know it, but we're a blended family. And my dad, stepped in to raise my brothers and I like we were all, the same from him. And that makes You don't notice that as a kid, but when you start to grow up and you see what it takes to provide for a family of seven, it's like, man, or about, yeah, seven, including me and my sister. I'm sorry to get the math wrong, but that's huge. And you understand the sacrifices that go into that, and seeing just where everybody right now in the family is, how successful everybody is. Like, that's a true testament to my dad's legacy and just the work and effort that he put into raising everyone. And he treats everyone different. Everyone, of course he treats everyone good, but he has a special relationship with everybody that's in my family, even cousins, you know what I mean? So, but I did want to share that because that played into a lot of me noticing, how true of an individual my father was, even through the hard times of growing up.
So, but how has he helped you with your parenting?
You know what? I guess we could call it help because he's not helping me right now. I'm right in front of a huge basketball court that can't even fit in most of the rooms in my house because he wanted to be funny. So my dad has gotten soft and as a grandfather, and he'll say, he's like, I'm not going to discipline your kids. I'm here to spoil them. Okay, that's great. But just seeing him go through those stages, sometimes as a father, I feel like I'm not doing something right. And, you got a rough day where Jackson's, he's just throwing temper tantrums. Levi's not listening to me. And I'm just so bundled up with emotions, just trying to get these kids to do the right thing. And, at the end of the day, I sit down and reflect every day on how was I as a husband? How was I as a father? And how was I just as an individual to myself? How did I treat myself today? And I always reflect on those rough days, the times I gave my dad a hard time and how he disciplined me. And after he disciplined me, he came out to talk of, why he disciplined me. And, those are some of the things that I carry with me now as a father. Is I'm in the stage right now where I'm the disciplinarian in the family. Like, you mess up, we about to have a talk. But I know there's going to be a time where I'll have to eventually move into more of that mentor stage. The discipline is not going to work. And if I continue to do that, I'll be looked at as a bad person, and that's the last thing I want. I want my sons to talk about me like I talk about my father. So I think that just seeing our relationship grow through the different stages between disciplinary, mentor, mentee, friend, and just those three different stages, I think I know now as a father where I should be, and I can notice the patterns more and be able to make those transitions a lot easier than if I wouldn't have had my dad around.
So what things do you think you took from him?
Man, the honesty piece, always being honest, even when it's not the right thing to do. And that comes with me even asking my kids sometime, like, hey, how is daddy doing? And of course they're going to say, well, stop spanking me. You stop spanking, you'll be doing good or something like, oh, let me stay late. Ask the question because I'm really serious. I want to know how I'm doing, as a father. And I think I'll share this story. There was a time in my life with my dad, and he was going through something that he didn't tell us. My sister and I found out about it. He knew we found out about it, but he admitted it to me before he told my sister. And I asked him about it. Like, hey, why'd you reveal this to me first before me and Gina? Because both me and Gina knew about it. What he said was, as a man, you're going to make some mistakes in life. And there's times when you need to own up to those mistakes. And the reason why I'm doing this now is because I don't want you to think that I made this mistake and I'm trying to hide it from you. And I want you to understand that, if you do make a mistake, you need to own up to it and make it right, with all parties involved. And that, that's something that I carry with me. There have been times where I've made mistakes and, I've tried to lie my way out of things. It just didn't work out in the way. And I always think about that conversation, and I always look at some of my friends who are dads, and, there are some friends who have gone through some pretty sticky situations as dads. And I always tell them, like, no matter how hard it gets, even if it was a mistake with a girl or something like that, like, you got to see it through. You got to figure it out. You know what I mean? Because you can't let these kids suffer for what you did. You have to make their world a better place, better than what you had. So, I think just the honesty piece and being a man and taking care of your responsibilities, even if it wasn't a planned responsibility, is something that he's always taught me. I think, when looking at just the grandparent relationship he has with my kids, he's still teaching me now on how to love and nurture a little bit better than I do. I think just seeing him in that mode is weird to me, seeing him with my nephew or my son, just, they're acting up and he's laughing. I'm like, nah, you're not this is not what you did with me, but he's teaching me a new level of how to love and nurture young men. It's easy with girls. You know what I mean? Girls, you can show them love. And I don't have girls, so I'm speaking from opinions. Boys, you
But you're
feel like
right. You're
need,
right.
yeah. And with boys, you feel like you need to be that man. Like, hey, nah, stop crying, figure it out. But at the same time, they need some of that love and nurture as well. And I think I'm learning that now, even with him as a grandfather to my boys.
So this just on that piece, how different of a conversation is that coming from your dad than these different conversations from your dad than your mom? Like just that man to man type of conversation. Like it gets a little different, right? I would assume because I don't,
Yeah, it does. And I think the reason why, no shade to my mom, I love her to death, but I can listen to my dad say one thing. Let's say manhood. I can listen to my dad say one thing about manhood and listen to my mom say something, the same thing. And it's to the point where I'm like, of course I'm gonna listen to my dad. He's been through it. You know what I mean? He's been through it. He's seen it. You know what I mean? I think with those conversations versus my mom versus my dad, of course, my mom, she has a wealth of knowledge. She's very
of course.
much in the church and things of that nature. She's my spiritual advisor when I need different things. But my dad, when I have life going on outside of church and, I need the spiritual counsel, I'll go to my dad and he'll give it to me straight from a man's point of view. And I think that's so important because, you always hear people say a woman can't raise a man, and not to be sexist or anything, but I think there's some truth to that. But again, it depends on the woman, but having that father in your life provides so much more backing when you make decisions in life, because you've had that person who's gone through it, that male who's gone through it, and can help you, guide you through some of those decisions as well.
Yeah. So I will say the biggest compliment you've given today is you said you want your kids to talk about you like you talk about your dad. Like that's a big thing, because I know how you talk about you know how I talk about your dad.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the thing. Your dad is like a dad to everyone that you saw at his birthday party.
Yep. Exactly.
So what would you want your legacy as a father to be? Is that it? To just be talked about as your father was talked about?
You know what? That's part of it, and I think, when looking at my overall legacy as a father, I want my kids to be able to go through life understanding the experiences they're going to go through and being prepared to go through them. I think if they go into life prepared to handle the ups and downs, the good and the bad, anything that's thrown their way, I've done my job as a father. I know they're going to make mistakes. I know they're going to have different decisions that they're going to have to make on their own, but being able to reflect on the lessons and the values that I've instilled in them, and, being able to make it through life, that's where I find the satisfaction. I want to see them succeed. If they talk about me, great, but if they don't, then as long as you're surviving and you're striving, we're good. You don't have to talk good about me. Hopefully you do, but as long as you're taking everything I'm teaching you and using it for good to better yourself and the folks around you, that, we're good. Mission accomplished to me.
That's perfect. We can leave it right there. I appreciate it, man.
Yeah, I appreciate you too, brother.
Episode of Just My Baby Daddy podcast. I know you like what you saw. So what I need for you to do is go back and look at past episodes. Make sure you like, subscribe, and share our YouTube page, Just My Baby Daddy podcast. And you can follow us on all social media at Just My Baby Daddy Pod.